The Italian Wine Podcast is the community-driven platform for Italian wine geeks around the world. Support the show by donating at ItalianWinepodcast.com. Donate €5 or more and we'll send you a copy of our latest book, My Italian Grape Geek Journal, absolutely free. To get your free copy of My Italian Grape Geek Journal, click Support Us at ItalianWinepodcast.com or wherever you get your pods. Grazie mille. Welcome to the Italian Grape Geek podcast. Join us as we explore personal stories of travel and tasting with Italy's must-know grape varietals. Chart your own course with My Italian Grape Geek Journal, your personal tasting companion to accompany the series. Available now on Amazon. With thanks to Colangelo and Partners for their generous support with this project.
Okay, so it's Brie here to talk to you about the Italian wine grape Nerello Cappuccio. So Nerello Cappuccio is found mostly in southeastern Sicily, specifically in the dioceses of Mount Etna and the nearby region of Faro, which is a little bit more on the coast. It can also be found in Calabria. There was an interesting study done in 2010 that analyzed the cuttings from vineyard plantings in eastern Sicily that showed that over 60% of the samples were not, in fact, Nerello Cappuccio. Many of them were Carignan and some were other varieties. This leads us to ask how much Nerello Cappuccio is actually present in the vineyards of such areas today. Nerello Cappuccio's main use is as the minority blending partner for Nerello Mascalese, and I'll discuss why that is. In terms of how Nerello Cappuccio behaves in the vineyard, it is an early budding variety, and provided that the spring weather is good, it doesn't tend to have as many viticultural challenges as Nerello Mascalese. It does tend to be an early ripener. The name, Cappuccio, it refers to the vine's bushy canopy, which resembles a cap. It has dark berries that have a good concentration of anthocyanins, which are also known as the molecules responsible for the pigmentation in fruit. This deep, stable color is one of the reasons that producers tend to appreciate it. In my lifetime, I've only tried 2 monovarietal versions of Nerello Cappuccio. They were both lovely. The wine should be deeply hued ruby with aromas of ripe red fruit, even dark fruit, and sweet spice like vanilla or cocoa. The tannins can be quite rustic in texture. The acidity tends to be medium or medium plus, along with the alcohol. It is mainly seen as a blend, as it is the perfect companion to Nerello Mascalese. It is easy to see why these 2 grapes are successful together, as each offers what the other lacks. This blend, dominated by Nerello Mascalese, is the composition for the popular Etna DOC. The contribution to this blend of Nerello Cappuccio is for predominantly color and body. And because of its riper fruit profile, it does add some complexity to the aromas and flavors of the finished wine as well. So in terms of its significance, it may never take the center stage, but Nerello Cappuccio is capable of making quality wine. There are important growers and producers, such as Salvo Fati and Benanti, who do champion the grape. And with those kinds of cheerleaders, we may see more support for it in the future. As I mentioned, I've only tried a few examples of pure Nerello Cappuccio wines. They reminded me both of Merlot in a way, to give you a comparison that might be more familiar. The fruit profile is riper, it has chocolatey tones, and a softer structure. One of those examples did have 7 years of bottle age to it, and it was really quite interesting, still with a good structure and with growing remarkable complexity as well. In terms of seeing Nerello Cappuccio wines in our market, we do see a few producers that work with the grape, though I speculate the way we would more encounter it would be as the minority partner in the blends of Etna DOC, which are quite popular in my market. In terms of producers that you should seek out, look for Benanti as one of the top, as well as Calabretta comes to mind. Benanti specifically sources fruit for their Nerello Cappuccio bottling from a vineyard that had been cultivated thanks to Salvo Fati, so we should give credit for that as well. In terms of how I would enjoy Nerello Cappuccio as a food and wine pairing, what comes to mind would be a richer dish like braised meat, such as ossobuco, which is a veal shank dish that originates from the north, from Lombardy. In general, I would err on the side of a simple, comforting cold weather dish like a braise or a roast to complement the wine. Okay, hello, Brie here. I'm here to speak to you about Italy's famous grape, Nerello Mascalese. Nerello Mascalese has in its name a reference to its origins, the Mascali area and town near the port city of Catania in northeastern Sicily. It is the main black grape in the region of Etna DOC, which are the vineyards that lie on the southern, east, and northern mid-slopes of the active Etna volcano. It can also be found in the nearby coastal region of Faro. It also grows in Calabria in areas such as La Masia, but in terms of its origins, it does have close genetic relationships with Sangiovese, Mantonico Bianco, and possibly the local white grape Caricante as well. In terms of the characteristics in the vineyard, Nerello Mascalese is both vigorous and productive, so yield and canopy must be properly managed. It is also quite sensitive to weather threats like humidity, which can cause mold and rot. In fact, 2023 was one of its most challenging vintages. Like elsewhere in Italy, the humidity and rain were devastating for it and for those who grow it. Given these challenges, it is not easy to work with, but it is particularly prized because it is such a great translator, especially of good vintages and good terroir. Much like Nebbiolo or Pinot Noir. The best sites for it tend to be on the east and north-facing slopes of Etna, and the Etna region itself is divided into 142 crus or contrada, much like how Burgundy is divided. The nuanced terror of these crus are dictated by the soils, all volcanic based, but of different ages and degrees of weathering, as well as with many varied aspects and slopes within the region. In terms of characteristics in the glass, I'll speak to Etna Rosso, which is required to be 80% Nerello Mascalese, with its typical blending partner of Nerello Cappuccio. So here, Nerello Mascalese gives a pale ruby-colored wine, when at its very best has complex aromas of red fruits like cherry, tobacco, tea, herbs, spices, and minerals. Its bouquet becomes more complex with bottle age. Its structure has elevated acidity, medium to high levels of tannin and alcohol. Nerello Cappuccio is used in this blend to soften out the structure and to deepen the color of the wine. There is also Etna Rosato made, which is a lovely, pale, refreshing rosé made from, again, at least 80% Nerello Mascalese. And recently, the DOC has permitted spumanti, or sparkling versions of the wine, made from the same varietal composition. Both the Rosato and the sparkling are styles I suggest you seek out. In terms of its significance, the Etna DOC, which is intrinsically tied to Nerello Mascalese, has grown immensely in popularity over the last 10 to 20 years. So much so that lots of investors have come to buy up the land. Its wines are seen on many wine lists in cities across the world. The popularity has also seen the prices of the top bottlings increase, much like the wines from Barolo or Chianti Classico. And this positions Etna DOC among the elite wine regions of Italy. In terms of my personal connection with the grape, I do encounter it often in Ontario. Of course, my restaurant group lists many Etna wines because the sommeliers are all fans and they are excited to share the wines with the guests. The Rossos can be incredibly compelling, complex and long-lived, and often are still less expensive than other red wines that we would describe as such. I love the fresh Rosato versions, which are on the savory mineral side of rosé and are very food-friendly. I've had the pleasure to taste some examples of sparkling Etna last year while in the region, and I'm looking forward to seeing this style in Ontario. In my travels, I have seen the wines from Etna DOC on wine lists in many cities, such as Copenhagen and New York, and all across Canada as well. In terms of benchmark producers, I would absolutely recommend seeking out Benanti, Salvo Fatti, Torre Mora, and Tenuta della Ternera, as well as Passo Pescario. But honestly, the list of good and great producers is long and growing longer all the time. For food pairings, I would try the Rosato with fresh seafood, such as octopus and prawns, or the delicious vegetable dish caponata, which has eggplant cooked with olives and capers. Both the seafood and the caponata have really nice briny, savory notes that would be complemented by the minerality in the Rosato wines. Etna Rosso often takes center stage as the main character in a pairing situation. It's not shy. The wines are often quite complex. So to choose a dish to go with it, I would choose a less complex partner, like spaghetti and tomato sauce or braised meat. I think it would be a nice balance. Okay. Hello, it's Brie here, back to talk to you about another Italian wine grape. This time we'll be discussing Nosiola. Nosiola is a white grape grown mostly in Trentino in the north, but also in the Veneto and in Lombardy, near the shores of Lake Garda. In terms of its origin, it has a close genetic relationship to the grape Rez, which is found in Switzerland. And Rez being earlier documented, we can assume that the Rez grape is the parent grape of the two. The name Nosiola is derived from hazelnut, and it could refer to the color or appearance of the berries, or it could also be a nod to the aromatic properties that are found in the finished wines. In terms of the characteristics in the vineyard of Nosiola, one attribute, which is more notable in one of its clones rather than the other two, is the fact that it has a loosely packed bunch, which really allows for making the late harvest Vino Santo sweet wines that are famous from Trentino. In general, Nosiola has medium-sized berries. It's fairly disease resistant, and one of its biggest viticultural challenges is spring frost, given that it can bud quite early. In terms of the characteristics of Nosiola in the glass, as a dry wine, it's really delicate. It has citrusy notes, flavors of hazelnut, and often a light floral tone, with a really focused palate with nice fresh acidity, salinity, and minerality. It really excels in the sweet wine Vino Santo, which is made from late harvest and air-dried versions of the grape that can be dried for as long as 6 months, which results in a very rich, intense, honeyed, tropical sweet wine balanced with nice freshness. In terms of my personal connection with the grape, I'm mostly familiar with the grape through my studies, as only 1 or 2 producers are available in the Canadian market. I really loved the Vinsanto versions, which I've tried during the Italy trade show. They are complex, exotic, balanced wines that would make for a wonderful end to a meal. Producers we do see in the Ontario market, we do have the wines of Foradori that are sometimes accessible and on occasions others, but it really truly is underrepresented in the Canadian market. Producers that I would recommend to seek out are Giuseppe Fanti and Gino Pedrotti, as well as Foradori, though the wines of Foradori skew on the natural side and do represent a specific personality of the grape. In terms of food and wine pairings, as a dry wine, I would really love to enjoy Nosiola with a plate of speck, which is a cured, well-seasoned pork. However, if you have a Trentino Vino Santo, this would be really great with a local cake called Zelton cake, which is made with figs, raisins, and nuts.
Listen to the Italian Wine Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Himalaya FM, and more. Don't forget to subscribe and rate the show. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. Any amount helps cover equipment, production, and publication costs. Until next time, cin cin.